Too much joy, too much pleasure, too much gratitude. I'm in the bathroom crying my eyes out going, this is not good for the beginning of the talk. We're in the story now, the glory of our own awakening. And Jesus is standing before Pontius Pilate. Pontius Pilate says to him, save yourself. I have the power to destroy you. And Jesus says, Christ consciousness says, you don't have any power over me unless I give it to you. And I don't choose to give you that power. Therefore, you don't have it over me. And he says, for this was I born into the world, that I might be a witness for Christ, a witness to God. For this I was born into the world, to bear witness to the truth. And that's what we're all here for. This Advent season, this Christmas season, once again, we're given the opportunity to allow ourselves to be empty vessels of spotless mirror through which God can reflect her presence, His presence, back into the world. For this was I born, to bear witness to the truth. Now, here we bear witness to many delusions and illusions of consciousness, but it doesn't change the purity of the message of our intention for being here. We just got back from Hawaii and got to spend 10 days with my beloved Xander. And Xander's 8 years old, and his ego is developing. You watch it, you know. But yet, it's so thin right now that radiance can come shining and blasting forth at any one moment when he gets permission for it. So for 5 days, we got to just be with him. And we went to the dollar store here in Wilmington and bought him a whole bunch of little plastic things. And he gets so much pleasure out of it. You know, part of me doesn't want to do that, you know, but he loves it. And it's not how much the gifts are, it's that we're giving a gift. So every day we'd open up one or two of these little presents and he'd be so excited. And when we got to the end of the material presents that we could give, we let him know that if he took 2 presents today, we wouldn't have any more for him the next day. And he said, well, I got a great idea. Why don't we just take ourselves with the blanket from the bed we were sleeping on, and why don't we just wrap ourselves up in a blanket? We'll start with Grandpa. We'll wrap up Grandpa in a blanket like this. We'll just wrap him up, and then we'll come into the room, and Tutu and I will slowly unwrap the gift of Grandpa. Oh, there's Grandpa! Christmas presents. And I said, with tears in my eyes, I offer you my presents today. I will give you my full focus and attention for the next 24 hours, the best as my ego will let me. That will be my gift for you today. And he was just thrilled with that gift. And the next day, we took the same thing and we wrapped up Tutu, Grandma in Hawaii. And we did the same thing. We walked in as if it were a brand new day, and we unwrapped Tutu. And she just stood up and he went, oh, the gift of Tutu's presents all day long. Does it get any better than that? And then we wrapped up him. This little, what does he weigh? 50 pounds, little skinny thing, little blonde skinny thing. We wrapped him up, and then we unwrapped the gift of his presents for the day. And I'm telling you, this is what the world wants from us. This is what the world needs now. More presents, more bearing witness to the truth. This is the day the Lord hath made. I will be glad and rejoice within it. I'm not going to miss this day. I'm here to bear witness to the truth of who I truly am. A magnificent son, a holy daughter of God. That's what the world needs now from us. The word witness comes from the Witten word, which actually means to be knowledgeable, to be aware, to pass on intellectual knowledge of true being. That's what witness means. So we're always bearing witness to something. And what we witness in another becomes the gift we receive first for ourselves. So I'm bearing witness to many of the faults that everybody appears to have. And the moment I'm bearing witness to that, it becomes the very judgment upon myself. Because there's only one God. So as you sit and judge them, you are judging yourself. It doesn't mean you don't have opinions and preferences. It's that when you throw up that image of their likeness as one who is condemned or judged by you, it's the judgment and the condemnation that you receive for yourself. For what you criticize in another becomes your evaluation of yourself. That's the way the impeccable nature of the law of consciousness works. And we can use it to awaken, and we can use it to stay deluded and definitely asleep. Can we not? Because we're always on the witness stand, and we're always judging. And the person who receives that judgment is ourselves. This is what we're being called upon to awaken from now, in whatever big or small way we can. We got an email a couple of months ago from some family member. And it was an interesting email. It was very simple. It just said, this is going on, that's going on, and we need to discuss with you something that happened between Dad and this person 8 years ago. My mind goes, there's something that happened. And the person that was in question, besides being me, was someone who has a different perception, a mental quality that doesn't always allow him to see things very clearly. He sees sort of through his own perception. And so he absolutely can misperceive what's going on. So I thought about that day, 8 years ago, about what happened. I was with that person, and I began to blame myself or bear false witness to myself. I began to feel like, well, maybe I had done something wrong. And Maureen was right there with me. We were both bearing false witness. We were wondering, well, what is it? Because this person can very easily misperceive what they're experiencing. What did I do that day? And right away, I was guilty as charged. My innocence was gone, and I kept thinking about and looking for where I might have made a mistake that day. Particularly with, how I am with my mouth and my sense of humor. It's real easy to not be aware. Well, what did I do? And the truth was, I hadn't done anything. I was innocent. Innocent and charged by the Holy Spirit to no longer take that image and likeness on. But I watched and I noticed how I was doing that to myself and how I was feeling guilty as a result of doing that. Anybody relate to what I'm talking about? And this happened 8 years ago. And the only thing that triggered it was an email that said, there's an issue between this person and Dad. And there I was. For the next 4 days, I was immersed. I was soaked in this judgment of myself. And you and I, we do this all the time. We bear false witness. And then we receive the criticism of what we're feeling in ourselves, in our own body. And then it becomes the mirror through which we perceive things darkly in the world. Anybody relate to any of what I'm talking about right now? Everyone does this every single day. So we're called upon in those moments to awaken to a different quality. To bear witness to the truth. And the truth was, I had really done nothing. I was innocent. And I began to shine up that mirror so I could reflect that back out into the world. Again, most importantly, what you bear witness to in another and believe is true, an email with one word that said one thing is the very criticism I was receiving from myself. That's bearing false witness. Another thing that we can do when we're dealing with a situation like that is to go into what the Buddhists call, or the Hindus call, the witness stance. That's when you're in the middle of the great play and you're doing your lines. You're in a play right now, right? And all of a sudden you get so caught up in the play that you forget a line or you don't know what you're doing or you become that character. Well, in the tradition of Hinduism, they say, get out of yourself and just witness what's going on. Witness yourself on the stage and say, well, did I really do anything wrong 8 years ago? Or am I just making this up? And then you re-enter back into it again. It's not separating yourself from your life. It's creating a kind of spaciousness around your addictive behavior patterns that keep you trapped and not being able to make choices. We don't want to react to life. We want to respond, don't we?
Yes.
And that's the difference between reacting is bearing false witness. You said this, I said that. You did this, I did that. Responding is bearing true witness. Is this really true? And what is really true? And am I ultimately innocent or guilty?